Hi folks, this is Klaus at Top Hydraulics. We'll show you today the manual operation of the R171, meaning Mercedes SLK-Class Vario roof. We'll show you in particular how to manually raise the top in case you're stuck somewhere with the top not functioning and you need to get that car closed. It's actually quite simple. It takes two people to lift it out of the trunk. You need only basic tools. That's a flat screwdriver, Allen wrench, which you can find in your trunk's toolkit, and possibly a ratchet strap. We'll see that later. That's optional. Raising this top is fairly simple. There are videos on the internet that are Mercedes training videos that say you need Mercedes star diagnostic. You don't need it. We'll show you how to get the top up and the rear windows up without the use of a computer. So let's get to it. What do we need to do? We need to first open the doors, both doors. Then we need to take the emergency key out of the key fob, meaning we make sure the key is out of the ignition, put it away. I already took the emergency key out and tried that back in the trunk lid. We want to make sure that emergency key works. Next thing, we know that the trunk lid works because I just tried it. Next thing we do is open the storage compartment between the two seats, and we pry out a cover that gives us access to the emergency relief valve. Now I'm getting into the trunk because I left my screwdriver in there. So now we will come around with a camera and show you how to pry this thing out, and also how next to open the emergency valve on the pump, you will open that 1 to 2 turns. Come on around. Here's the storage compartment. We open the compartment. You see about a 1-inch tab here that has 3 connections left. I hate to break things, but it's got to be done. So we put our screwdriver in here and lever this open. I'll let it hang, so at least hopefully later we can put some backing behind it and put it back into place nicely. Now we need to feel our way through this carpeting and the felt layer behind into the relief valve on the pump to get the 6mm Allen wrench into that relief valve. Might be easier said than done. We still need to feel our way around here. So I had to feel my way through a couple slots that are in the carpet here and in a felt cover around the pump, and ultimately the wrench goes in horizontally. I finally found that valve, and we're now having the valve still closed. This Allen wrench is a standard Allen wrench, not the one that you find in the toolkit. The one in the toolkit would have an longer arm. It would be easier to turn it. In this case, I'll put a little extension on here and turn it. We want to open this valve one, at the very most 2 turns. 1 turn is just fine. May as well leave the wrench in here. We'll need it later so that we don't have to feel our way in there again. The emergency valve has been opened. We know our trunk lock works. Now, next step is we lift up the rear of the trunk lid tubular frame. That is, grab under the lid, lift up. Weird, eh? Now we can grab the front of the trunk lid and pull it backwards, just the way the top would move it, just the way the pump would move it if the top was in regular operation. Now, in most cases, the trunk lid will stay flipped back. in this particular case, there is a vacuum in the pump's reservoir right now that sucks the lid forward again, but no, it's okay, it stays here, we're good. Let's next have a helper come around and we will lift the top together, and we'll show you a couple tricks. One is, if we're not comfortable with the clearance between the top and this trunk lid, we can put the trunk lid into service position. That means you open it up the regular way, and if the gas struts in this trunk lid were still fully charged, the lid would stay up this way. In this particular case, it doesn't stay up, so we happen to have just the right size support here to keep it this way. But you don't need the support if you know how to deal with the situation. So let's take this down again and have the trunk lid go back into the regular latch position. And next we will lift the top out of the storage compartment. To lift the top, you don't want to grab it by the top panel, but rather under the C-pillar. The C-pillar is the stable part of the top. The upper part is a little wiggly. Before we do this, we need to move the hatch shelf or this panel to the fully open position. It's pretty self-explanatory what open is. Now we can have one hand under the C-pillar, and we could with the other hand guide the top. You could have the stronger person do most of the lifting, but the person on the other side still needs to do some of the guiding because the top gets to be kind of wobbly. So let's lift it up. We lift it to either the highest position or we go forward a tad more. So you could lift it to just the highest position, have one person hold it in place. It's just a little bit scary. Or we could have the top move forward into a paper towel roll or some other support above the windshield, where now its own weight will support it. And we go to the next step, that is again with the 6mm Allen wrench to unlock the front. Let's show you that particular one in detail. We remove this plug in the headliner, easily pulled down, put in our 6mm Allen wrench and turn clockwise a quarter turn to have the claws of the front lock come out. Okay, we will need a helper again to lower the top into the front windshield header. What we do is take our spacer out, and as we lower the top, we don't lift up on the front, we rather guide it by the rear pillar and move both at the same speed. Just let it drop into the windshield header. And we, after the top has been latched in the front, we will both lean on this because there's some small lock pawls in the frame. They will not kick in yet because it's not locked yet, but they will kick in after we have locked the front. To lock the front, we put our Allen wrench back in and we turn it counterclockwise a quarter turn. You don't normally hear these clicking, but you do want to push down on this corner of the top on both sides. Next, we will move on to closing the trunk lid, and that one person can do. We push forward, and keep in mind this is moving slowly because we're actually moving fluid through the hydraulic cylinders, hoses into the pump. And now we open the trunk lid and we push the frame forward. You will see that the tubular frame of the trunk lid goes into some guide pins over here. The other thing you will notice is that it keeps springing back. The reason the trunk lid frame keeps springing back is, in our particular case, the pump is almost full of fluid, and as the cylinders for the trunk lid retract while this trunk lid is flipping forward again, there's more fluid getting into the pump's reservoir. With more fluid in the reservoir, this is a closed system, there's actually some air pressure building up in the reservoir, and that's what we're fighting over here. So there's a couple of ways, or actually 3 ways, to get this trunk lid frame closed all the way. One is, if you're lucky, and somewhat lucky, and there is actually no fluid left in the pump, well, in that case you have your job cut out on the hydraulics. Then this trunk lid frame will just click into place, and as you close the trunk lid, this will actually, once you lean on the trunk lid, this will come down. Now that's the less common case. More commonly, we need to give this some help. So we will get into the trunk, we open the luggage divider, and we employ the help of a ratchet strap. Let's take a look from behind here. I have tied a ratchet strap into the striker for the trunk lock, and in this case into the spare tire. It doesn't take much force. We just slowly move this. We don't force anything. We just keep moving, since we don't want to break anything, until eventually this frame striker is all the way down. Now I could just release the ratchet right now. Likely it would come back a little bit. We give the system a little bit of time to equalize. Meanwhile, we go on, move to the front lock, and check what happened there. If we put our Allen wrench into the front lock again, you remember that turning it counterclockwise is locking. You will notice that the front has unlocked itself. The reason this happened is because the trunk lid frame cylinders are on the same circuit as the front lock cylinder. Now I've turned this the whole quarter turn again, and it's staying in place. That's good news. If the pump was overfilled, then the air pressure in the pump's reservoir would be pushing this open again. Fortunately, that's not happening. So let me show you, just in case your front lock should be opening on its own again, let me show you what to do worst case to relieve the pressure in the system. There's an emergency access panel access in this right trunk lid panel, and that gives us access to the top of the right trunk lid cylinder. The top of the cylinder is located roughly here at this corner, but then inward 4 inches. Since that's really awkward to film, let me show you how that rod and how that cylinder would be removed from the trunk lid frame. The reason we would be removing the top of this cylinder from the trunk lid frame is so that this cylinder can expand again and take the pressure out of the pump's reservoir. Again, this is normally not needed. It's only a last resort in case your top keeps opening itself. It's not normally needed. So we need a small flat screwdriver that goes under the circlip on the ball joint, and we walk this circlip down the ball joint until it is, well, halfway off the ball joint. You don't want to pry the circlip off all the way because it's a bear to put it back on. So you only walk it down part of this ball joint so it stays expanded. Then you can put something like an open wrench behind this ball joint and slowly pry the ball joint off the ball. It does not take much force, but if there is tension on this cylinder, then you may just have to move the trunklet frame around a little bit to ease that tension. So you then have your wrench between the top of the cylinder and the trunk frame, and you wiggle it a little bit, and suddenly the top of the cylinder pops off. You want to secure the top of the cylinder slightly forward for in case you later move the top manually. If this cylinder rod was facing backward, it would get stuck here somewhere and you might break something. So after the top of the cylinder has been removed from the trunklet frame, you want to secure it in the forward position. Now, in order for the rear windows to go up, the switch assembly on this cylinder must be in the closed position. You may be able to push the cylinder down, but it'll come right back up because you've got this air pressure in your reservoir right now. So the alternative is undo the clasp that holds the rider on the switch. Undo this clasp, pull the switch top off, remove the switch slightly from the cylinder, push it down. Now the computer gets the signal that the trunk lid is closed, and it will allow the rear windows to go up just by using the forward button on the top, meaning the top close button. Last step, release our ratchet, take the strap out, close the trunk lid, and we are ready to drive. Woohoo!